A Fond du Lac man has a cash bond set at $15,000 after being accused of threatening a high-ranking state official based in Madison. 46-year-old Bradley Hartman faces charges of making terrorist threats and unlawful use of a phone. He reportedly left voicemail messages for the victim, threatening to kill them and their family. He also called Dane County Dispatch and told them to protect the victim after leaving those voicemail messages. While the state official hasn't been named in the criminal complaint from the Fond du Lac District Attorney's Office, online records show that Hartman isn't allowed to communicate with Governor Tony Evers or go to the Capitol Square as part of his bail conditions. He's also not allowed to go to any of the same events as Governor Evers. Hartman will have a preliminary hearing July 23rd.